Number one, this is what we're going to do today. Number one, we'll finish the chapter or the learning objectives that are relevant for questions that you need to cover in the tutorial next week, which may be in the exam, okay? So we will finish, I think there's only 1 or 2 learning objectives left. We're not doing all of the learning objectives. 7 and 8 we're not doing, okay? All right. Number 2, I will give you another example of supplier comparison, which the chapter talks about, but it doesn't really give you many examples, okay? But my example will be more of a case study. Okay. And I'll try and then wrap that up. Okay, what are the big takeaways that you need from the chapter for this week? Then after that, after the break, I want to talk about your assignment. Okay? And last minute things that you need to pay attention for your presentations next week, okay? All right, put your hand up if you think that will be useful. Okay, good, all right. So that's our plan for today. Where I left you off on Monday was with just-in-time purchasing. We basically started to go into Learning Objective 4, all right? And Learning Objective 4 is describe why companies are using just-in-time purchasing. Why are they using just-in-time? And the whole idea was early on when we talk about inventory management, we are trading off ordering costs, right? And we're trading that off against carrying costs. Is that right? Okay. All right. But the big idea of going to just-in-time is now we're not worried so much about ordering costs. Under just-in-time, you can do 300 orders a year because you automate the whole ordering process. And so now we are not trading off ordering and carrying costs. We are trading off carrying costs, right? And what's this missing one? Stock out, that's it. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Okay. And class, these costs are real, okay? When you read the textbook, I know, I'm sorry, I apologise. Textbooks are not very good at showing you how real things are. But when I go into factories, I can see this. I showed you the video of the factory that just had $2 million of inventory just in the hallways. I showed you the video, okay? It's real, okay? Carrying costs are real. And people don't understand how much it costs to carry inventory, all right? But when we go to just-in-time, we're trying to reduce that. And we're trying to minimise this probability, right? Okay, the probability that you'll get stock out, right? At the end of the day, look, there's nothing's perfect. All we're trying to do is we're just trying to optimise, that's all. Okay, we're just trying to optimise. We're just trying to get the best balance. There's no perfect balance, okay? So every business, this balance may be different, okay? You do your big data, you do the econometrics, you do the statistics, And each business has to figure out how to optimize these two things. Okay? Because the stock out cost for a B2B customer may be totally different for a B2C customer. Okay? Stock out for an individual customer on Amazon, they get angry, but it's only one person and it's only one thing that they don't buy from you. Do you know what I mean? But a B2B customer, stock out, you can lose thousands, millions of dollars. You see the difference? Okay? So at the end of the day, as you go across inventories, as you go across industries, across products, across different customers, these costs are different, but for every business, we're just trying to optimize. We're trying to get the best balance. How do you figure that out? Well, you're being taught statistics, you're being taught big data analysis by the econometrics department, is that right? Yes or no? You did statistics, right? Yeah, so when you go into any business, you get the data and then you start to figure it out, okay? And then optimize. Okay. Okay, so that's the trade-off. Just-in-time purchasing, I covered this, and remember the key thing that was different. What was that? Remember there were 6 costs of carrying inventory at the beginning of the chapter, and one of them was not opportunity costs. What was it called? Yell it out. Shrinkage. And what was shrinkage? Oh, by the way, is shrinkage significant? Remember there's 6 items. Is shrinkage a significant one or just a minor one? It's significant. Shrinkage, you've gone to the shops in the mall, right? And what happens now when you go into most shops? You go into IT, you go into Daiso and everything. They've got these big security things at the front, right, that you walk through. And when you buy your clothes, do you think you can walk out without paying for them? No, that's not the reason why you walk out without paying for them. The reason is because they've got this thing stuck to the clothes that if you pull it off, the dye will come out and it will just go out all over the clothes, right? So, we use our common sense. Oh, we better pay for this, and then they'll take it off, and then we can go out of the shop. Why would shops spend millions of dollars putting this on every item? Like, IT, sorry. Any of those big stores in the mall, okay? They literally have thousands of stock keeping units, okay? And then they may have, think about the clothes, right? Thousands of different clothes. And then they have 5, 6, 7, 10 different sizes of each or stock of each. They've got to put those things on every item, all right? So do you think shrinkage is not significant? If it wasn't, they wouldn't invest millions of dollars in all this security, okay? Because customers would just walk out of the shop without paying. It happens, okay? It's a probability. It happens in every country in the world. It's not just this is this culture and this is that culture, okay? It's just part of it, all right? So shrinkage is so critical. So what is really interesting when we talk about just-in-time, we're not focused on shrinkage, we're actually focusing on opportunity costs. And part of the reason is that we're moving away, just-in-time is not really focused on retail so much, it's focused more on business to business. Okay. So with business to business customers do not steal your inventory like retail customers might, okay? And, or employees, okay? And so that's why shrinkage is not part of that 6, okay? But opportunity costs are there. Okay, all right, and I showed you this on Monday, and the whole idea here was to say, okay, there are 3 types of costs going on here. There are carrying costs, there are ordering costs, and then there are, and then there's stock out costs. And so what we wanted to show you here is that each of those three costs are significant, but what I showed you on Monday is that the difference in ordering costs is 258, right? 258, can you see that? See the mouse, all right? Right here. Okay, 260 minus, wait a minute, 26. So 234, okay? The difference in the opportunity carrying costs is 945. Okay, or is it? Yes, it is. Okay, and then the difference in other carrying costs, you add these both up, there's 255, and here you got 2,600, and you take that off, so you're 2,350, and the difference here in the stock out cost is 600. So you got three types of costs there. You got your ordering costs of about 250. Your carrying costs is up over 2,000 plus, right? And then your stock out costs is 600. And so what this question is trying to show you is that it's not about that you're never going to have ordering costs. You're always going to have ordering costs. Ordering costs always cost money, okay? It's not, the aim of just-in-time is not to make this zero. The aim of just-in-time is to optimise between 1, 2 and 3, okay? That's the aim, all right? And when you know that, this is 2,000, or the carrying costs are 2,000 plus, and the stock out 600, well, these are the relevant ones that you want to balance off and trade off, okay? That's what the point is being made. Optimization is not about making one of the factors zero. Optimization is about getting the total cost as low as possible. Okay. Now we go to supply chain management. Here we have page 811, the relevant total costs of purchasing from two suppliers. I love this because, of course, I love visiting suppliers, right? So there's an example in the textbook about two suppliers. And what I began to show you on Monday was, doesn't this look like what you studied in Management Accounting 1? Activity-based costing. In Management Accounting 1, you said, not all products use the same resources. Some products use more resources than others. Therefore, we need to allocate costs differently. And we need to be very specific on the drivers. What this is showing here is that, not all suppliers are the same. One supplier gives you more trouble than the other. So therefore, the activity-based costs can be applied to working out which supplier we should buy from. Wow. Okay, so that's what this is showing. And I was so happy to see that this is an extension of a principle that you've already learnt in your first management accounting course. And so what's the big idea here? All right, we have one supplier, Rytec, the other one, Denton, and the purchasing costs are at one stage. It's less for Denton, it's more for Rytec. Notice the ordering costs. You're ordering 130 from each. Okay, so there's no difference. And then we can go down to the opportunity carrying costs. And there's not much difference again, 103, 105. And then other carrying costs are not much different. But what we're doing here now is that apparently the total costs associated with Denton is much higher. And why is that? Because one of these suppliers is not giving you the quality that you're expecting. One of them is delivering poorer quality. Which one is it? Is it hands up for Rytec? Hands up for Denton? Okay, Denton, yes. And so because that poor quality, you cannot use it. So what do? You send it back. And so at the end, it costs you more money to work with that supplier because $3,250 of customer return costs. That just wastes your time. Of course, the supplier's got to replace that, but that's not the point, okay? All right, so this is what you would do in looking at the relevant total costs from purchasing from two suppliers. Okay, what I want to show you now, this is not on your PowerPoint slide, but I wanted to dig deeper into, okay, are there things they're talking about in the textbook that are relevant to what I've observed in my work in Hong Kong? And yes, there is. What you've got here is a summary of some of my interviews with Big Ideas, Tell Apparel and Weave. Now, do you all know Tell Apparel? Basically, Tell Apparel is the largest manufacturer of white shirts in USA. Wow. So pretty big, huh? Pretty big, yes. All right. So I interviewed them about how do you manage your suppliers? And one of their key persons works for their consulting arm, and the name of the consulting arm is Weave Consulting. And that person, I asked him 3 big trends, and I summarised that on a PowerPoint for you. Do you have this summary in front of you on your slides? And that's Fred Lemoine. I want you to have a read that because these are 3, I just asked him, what are the 3 big trends going forward, like 2018 going forward? What are they? Like, this is not in your textbook, but this is real stuff. This is the real thing that this consultant told me. Okay, number 1 was this notion of total cost of ownership. So have a look at the second, I want you to digest this because this is real information. See the second line? Underline this. People these days do not look at the cost of free on board on its own. What free on board means, costs from the factory to get it to the shipping port that you are shipping from, okay? Okay. They look at the total cost of ownership. What does that mean? Total cost of ownership includes FOB price, cost of shipping, including all the worst orders, air flights I would have had to make because of delays, okay, in manufacturing because of disruption in my upstream supply chain. Also, the cost of holding inventory as a way to protect me from supply performance or delay. What is he saying? Oh, if I have a supplier that I have one inkling that they may delay, what do? Oh, I need to have more safety stock. Wow, isn't that amazing? Because in the chapter they talk about that, right? Wow. Amazing. Okay. And the first real concept now is negotiations from FOB for these prices. For these prices is gone or is going, okay? So in other words, they're not just focusing on FOB, they're focusing on other factors that impact on the total cost of sourcing from a supplier. All right, what is the next big factor, the next big trend that you need to know about? Design to cost. How many of you have heard of design to cost? Hello? Okay, let me give you a hint. Okay? Hint, do you get an idea of what this is? Do you know what this is? Did I ever give you a diagram that starts to look like this? And then I started mentioning this thing called target costing or target pricing, okay? And then you only need to worry about number 1 and number 4, remember? And what was number 4? Number 4 was functional analysis, is that right? And what was this one? Design analysis. And what was this one? Process value analysis. You remember that? I remember teaching you, therefore you must remember being taught. Wow. Okay, so let's read what he said again. Design to cost. Let's read what he says, okay? Something I think is definitely very fast growing trend. Okay, this is what remember, Fred is one of the leading consultants of the apparel supply chain in Hong Kong, okay? Lovely guy. Okay, before they would say, I would like to buy a yellow of the shirt, great, go find the yellow shirt. You can find in the market and we'll figure it out. These days is gone. We see a lot of companies, we're going to design a product to cost. We're going to break it down and have a very clear understanding of a brand and how much it costs me for this component, that component, the cost to assemble it. Then I'll design the product to the cost that I can afford to pay. Then I'll go out and find people who can make the product to that cost. So you design to cost, there's very little negotiation to be had because guys tell you how much it, okay? So what he's saying is that these days, it's like I go to you, you're the customer, I'm going to sell shirts, okay? And I go and talk to the customer. Do you want to buy a shirt? Okay, what do you want? What do you care about? You care about the pocket? No, we don't care about pocket. Okay, but I like a good collar. So then when I design the shirt, I'm not going to worry too much about pocket. I'll make sure the collar is good because that's what you pay attention to. So you actually only design in features that the customers will pay for, and you go backwards. That's exactly what I said 2 weeks ago, right? Functional analysis. Okay, so functional analysis and design analysis is all about what he's talking about here, design to cost. Wow, so that's the second big trend that he's talking about, this leading consultant in Hong Kong. Wow, that's what we've been teaching. And the last one, here's the last, you'll like this one. You'll like this one, negotiation through planning. What does that mean? Well, what tends to happen is, okay, China is still the largest manufacturer of apparel in the world. No matter how much has been outsourced and gone to India and Bangladesh and all that, China is still huge. All right. Okay, so what he says is that when they go and buy socks, there are some socks that you know that are going to be purchased at Christmas time, like black socks. This Christmas, next Christmas, people buy black socks. Christmas after, black socks. Black socks will be demanded all the time. It's not going to change from year to year, okay? So you never ever order those black socks in a very busy season where you just find out the latest styles and then you want to get them made. You order the black socks, you order those styles that are not specific for a particular season or a particular year. You order that in the downtime. And that's what he's saying here. So I've seen clients come to us and say, fantastic, I'm going to spend on negotiation tactics. I'm going to tell them I'm going to give them 10% more than last year. In other words, they go to a factory, look, of course I want black, I want red, I want grey, I want green, I want all these socks. And in order to get the manufacturer to make them all for me, I'll just pay them 10% more. But the factories are saying, no, we don't have capacity. We're busy. Okay, so from beginning September every year, factories are just booked out. September, October, November are the biggest factory operation days in the world. Right? Because 70% of retail in the US is actually purchased at Christmas time. 70% for the whole year. So it's not like 1/12 is manufactured every month, okay? But sometimes you don't know what the in thing is at Christmas until September, October, you know what I mean? So you never go to the factory with a plain, oh, can you do 100,000 black socks for us? Why? You do that in May, you do that in April. So you plan the boring stuff that is purchased year in, year out. You always plan that year in, year out. Okay? You just plan that in the off-season time. But you don't know what the fancy colour is going to be at Christmas, and so you only save your peak manufacturing time or planning. You plan that peak time for those colours that you find out at the last minute. Oh, blue is going to be big at this Christmas. And so now you save your manufacturing capacity for that colour you just found out. You with me? Whereas black, that's every year, all right? So you never ever clog up your last minute manufacturing capacity with a colour that you know is just going to be ordered every year anyway. You see? You use the manufacturing downtime. So you go to the factory and say, look, the factories, they don't want 10% more. They just don't have the capacity to do blue and black. You just go to that factory another time when they're quieter and then you order the black. So that's what he's saying here. 1, 2, 3. They are the big challenges that he told me going forward. Okay. Now we want to go to Learning Objective 5. Okay. Learning Objective 5. Okay. Don't worry, my Distinguished Material Requirements Planning System. Okay, materials requirement planning is a push-through system, and the best example I can give you is what HTC talked about. HTC, remember I asked you, when I spoke to the manager in HTC, I said, what is your biggest challenge? And he said, my biggest challenge is not getting the sales forecast right. If I can get the sales forecast right, I can run the whole supply chain like clockwork. And that's materials requirement planning basically needs a good forecast, because it says it is a push-through system, okay? It's based on demand forecasts. So you need to have a very good sales forecast if you just rely on a materials requirement planning system. So it's a push-through. Just in time is more a demand pull. And so you only produce something when you know there's going to, a customer has rung up. So remember that supplier that made those car audios and they made all that inventory, and that inventory was waiting for the customer to ring up, can you send me 1,000 of these audios to go into our car manufacturers I was selling to, right? So then they would open up the inventory, pull out the audio, and then put the software in that fits the customer's need. And then they pack it up and then they ship it to a customer. So in some ways, the company was doing a half and half. It was only just in time with respect to the software, but with the hardware, it was making lots of inventory. It was so funny. And it was making money, you know, this company's making money. All right, so just in time is demand pull. We're pulling through, okay? So, very quickly on materials requirement planning, because I don't think there is not a computational question related to this in the tutorials next week, so I'll quickly go through this. You need to know the demand forecasts, the bill of materials, and information about companies' inventory of materials. So can I ask you a question? Put your hand up if you know what we mean by a bill of materials. Hands up. Bill of materials. Have you heard of that word before? Okay, so just in case, I just want to show you. All right, I've already shown you this picture before, and that is the copy iPhone. That is not the real one. Okay, okay. But now this is the real one, and this is your iPhone, and this is the iPhone 6, so it's a bit old, But notice that the cost of the components that go into your iPhone, and you're holding your iPhone now, is about 1/3 of what you paid for it. Wow. So Apple make lots of money? Oh, sure they do, yes. They make lots of money, yes. Right? See, look at the parts: display, memory, communications, cameras, processor, mechanical, total parts, $200 US. Wow. Okay, so that is your bill of materials, all those little parts. But those parts is up to about 200 parts that go into your iPhone, but they are the main parts here. So when we talk about bill of materials, we are talking about all of these semiconductors that go into your iPhone, and we can talk about all of those materials over time haven't really gone up much in price. Now this is iPhone 6, we haven't updated this, but this is a little bit more detail of what bill of materials may look like. And that is, what you see here are all the different components that may go into an iPhone. Notice your iPhone has a Samsung processor in it. It has a Samsung DDR RAM inside, okay? It has a Samsung application processor and a Toshiba flash memory. See, all of these companies are just selling to each other. What's inside? Could be any company. All right, but this is a bill of materials. Can I just point you to the fourth last row? Rest of bill of materials, 45. Total bill of materials, $172. Okay, see that? Bill of materials. Okay, so that's what I mean by bill of materials in the MRP process. So taking into account the lead time required to purchase materials and manufacture components, okay, the master production schedule specifies the quantity and timing of each item to be produced. Okay? Once production starts as scheduled, the output of each department is pushed through the production line. Now, with just-in-time production, we're pulling through, and so basically what is telling the production to start is the demand for the product. And so most car manufacturing assembly lines, and I've been to the Toyota just built one in Zhongshan about 6 years ago, which is opposite, out of Guangzhou, opposite Hong Kong, just north of Macau. And I went to that production line about 2.5 years ago. It's one of the largest in China. And they were making about 6 different models of cars on the same line. And every car was a different colour or a different shape or size. And that was easy to do because they can just reprogram the robots to just do different welds and whatever. And so what determined what model went through? Well, whatever was being ordered by the car dealers around China. That's what determined what gets produced. They were not making inventory hoping that people will come along and buy a car. They were just making whatever was being ordered by dealers. And the dealers, they were ordering what they know that they could sell. Okay, so that's what we mean by a demand pull, just in time. Okay, and so the big thing about just-in-time production is that you need to have very, very good customer information systems. Why? Because it's the customer that's pulling the product through the system. You need to have very good customer information systems. All right? Because you're only making something when a customer has actually said, I want to buy this colour, this function, and then you start to make it. That's it. Okay, so we go to the, finally, just before our break, features of just-in-time production systems. Number one, production is organised in manufacturing cells. So in other words, they're sort of like islands, they're work areas. You saw that the Hoover board manufacturing system I showed you, where they go, one worker just does one little part and then it rolls on to the next worker and they do a little part. Okay. Workers are hired and trained to be multi-skilled. Defects are eliminated. Again, we're focusing on quality. Setup time and manufacturing cycle are reduced, and suppliers are selected on the basis of their ability to deliver quality materials in a timely manner. So they're actually, suppliers are not selected on the basis of lowest price. They are selected in terms of reliability, their ability to not give you trouble. Like the trouble occurs in the timing, okay? And so if 1 or 2 out of 10 boxes of materials doesn't fit and work, it holds up the whole production if it's just in time, because you're not focusing on having safety stock. You're not focusing on having a buffer. So suppliers in a just-in-time system, it's even more critical that you have very, very reliable suppliers. And it's likely that those suppliers will be more expensive. So let's just finish up, summarise again. I put those pictures up again. Okay, the cost and benefits of just-in-time production. Okay, lower inventory levels, lower carrying costs. Okay, heightened emphasis on improving quality by eliminating rework, scrap, waste, and lower manufacturing cycle times. What do we mean by lower manufacturing cycle times? Well, we mean the time from start to finish of the manufacturing cycle. So the efficient car manufacturers these days, they can make a car in 16 or 17 hours. Okay? 16 or 17 hours, mate. Car, you can get in and drive. Boom. Okay? That's just in time. Okay? So it's that 16 or 17 hours, that is the manufacturing cycle time. And another way of putting it, or make it easy for you to understand, is talking about assembly, okay? So you've got all the parts, they're not together, and then suddenly they're together and there's your product, okay? So from A, they've got the parts, to B, you've got the product. That's assembling all the products, all the parts together. That's called what we call by manufacturing. So manufacturing cycle time is that 16 or 17 hours it takes to make a car. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time on ERP systems. Eugene, in Accounting Information Systems course, I think you have to take that, part of auditing, part of your accounting degree. He talks about ERP. I was actually talking with him today about this, we just cover this, but we just introduce you. So an enterprise resource planning is more of a comprehensive system, right, that has everything. So when we're talking about resource planning, there are resources needed for manufacturing, like materials, any parts, bill of materials, right, okay. But then there's resources associated with overhead, so planning of, your water, power, electricity, okay. And then you've got human resources, all right. And so when we say enterprise resource planning, it's about synchronizing the costing and the demand for the materials, the labour and overhead, okay. So don't overcomplicate what an enterprise resource planning system is. So for a company, if you go out consulting and they say, I want to put an ERP system in, you don't have to make it up. All you do, you go to Oracle, you go to Microsoft, you go to SAP. They're one of the biggest vendors in the world that provide ERP systems for companies. And then you go into the company and they find out, okay, what is your needs? and then they will tweak their software, and then boom, got it. It's in. Okay, the hardest part about enterprise resource planning is people getting used to it, people getting used to having to input data into particular areas. Remember when you apply for this course, did you have to enter information in the way that Monash required, is that right? Not the way that you wanted to put it? And then you had to do it all. It took a long time because you couldn't just copy and paste. And yeah, so that enterprise resource planning causes that on humans when they put into a company, because humans have to get used to all the different fields and how data needs to be entered and represented. So it takes training, and it can cause turnover. It can cause stress for humans. So how many of you have heard of Target? Do you know Target? Target is like, they're a major retailer in USA and Australia. So I was talking to one of their merchandising managers in Shanghai. They're managing 30 suppliers in Shanghai. So Target put in a full ERP system in their Shanghai office because they wanted to cut down their product design time to market from 80 days down to 40 days. Okay, so we've got new baby's clothes in the design to get it into market. Normally takes 80 days, nearly 3 months. But they want to cut it in half. So they put it in this system. And so the merchandising manager was complaining to me, telling me that, oh, this is such a nightmare because we cannot do everything until we put all that information in, and then we press enter, and then it won't because we missed a field here or there. And she was telling me that it was so much easier before we had that system in place to communicate with the suppliers. But now they have to communicate through the enterprise resource planning system. Okay? So companies are doing that. Why are they doing that? To speed up the whole process, to speed up the whole managing, ordering process, not just the manufacturing process. Yes, standardized versus customization, yes. Okay, so the final part, and we're going to have a break in a couple of minutes, 2 minutes. I just want, actually this leads on to your assignment. We'll talk after the break, and that is measurement, okay? We love our measurement, okay? I love measurement, not KPIs, measurement, okay? All right, now with measurement, okay, financial performance measures such as inventory turnover ratio is expected to increase in just in time. Why? Because you're holding less inventory, okay? All right, so therefore you're going to you're replacing inventory very, very fast, okay? So turnover is very fast, right? Non-financial measures are going to be something like how many days of inventory do you have on hand, okay? So if you're turning over inventory 12 times per year, then you're going to have on average 30 days of inventory on hand. You with me? Okay, so that's not very efficient in a lot of industries. The units produced per hour is another measure. Number of units scrapped requiring rework. We don't want that to happen. And manufacturing cycle time. Again, we mentioned that again. That's the time from start to finish of the whole production process. Total setup time for machines is expected to decrease. So you're actually reducing setup time. Remember, I'll just give you one last example of what buyers are giving manufacturers in developing economies a lot of headaches now, because 2 or 3 years ago, they would come to the factory and say, oh, I want to buy 10,000 units of the red colour. But today what they're doing is, no, I would like 2,000 of blue, 2,000 of green, 2,000 of grey, 2,000 of red. And then they expect the manufacturer to do it for the same price. And that's the challenge. And what happens when you have those 5 lots at 2,000? Then the setup time for machines, that bottom one, that bottom measure, okay, that goes up because now you've got to do 5 setups instead of 1. Okay, so factories don't like that. But that's the reality because that's how things are being ordered these days. Okay. Okay. Effective just in time on product costing. At the end of the day, we are having much more focus on the direct tracing of cost to a product. So this is perfect for activity-based costing. And overall, what we are doing is reducing the overhead cost proportion because we don't need as much warehousing. We don't need as much of these non-production costs that we need to allocate to all the products because everything's just in time. We're only turning the machines on when we are making something. Okay. And because we don't have inventory, we don't have warehousing, so we don't have warehousing overhead, and therefore we don't need to allocate as much overhead to the products. So just in time allows more direct tracing of costs to the products. And so you'd have less, what do you call it? What did you learn in Management Accounting 1? You have less inaccuracy of allocation of costs when you just use one plant-wide method, right? Versus ABC. Okay. Okay. That's it. And there's some terms to learn to keep in mind preparation for your tutorials next week. So what we're going to do now, we're going to, that finishes this whole idea of what just in time is about. Have a look at those 3 exercises that have been set for the tutorial next week. Try and look at them, familiarise yourself with those exercises before the tutorial. That helps you. Oh, there's no tutorial next week for your exercises, is there? You're presenting instead. Do you want to do the tutorial exercises too? You won't have time, I'm sorry. I know you'd want to do it. Okay, all right. Let's have a break, 10-minute break now. When we come back, I want to show you a video and then we're going to go over the assignment and preparation for next week. Okay, thank you.